Oh, lads, and lassies. Do you know what? Right, I was thinking when I messaged you about this. Right, I was thinking we're going to get a fairly routine weigh-in. It's going to be fairly routine. We're going to talk about Usyk weighing in at his normal weight. And then we're going to talk about Fury coming in a bit lighter than he did against Ngannou, maybe 268, 270. Instead, we're talking about a 262 Tyson Fury and a 200. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. A 233-pound Oleksandr Usyk. Already 75 people in the building. So yes, I can see yous want to know as well. Before we talk about this, whilst we have the 70-odd people in the building, my guest needs no introduction, but he'll get one anyway. His channel is pinned in the comments as well. Mr. Joe Stunner Boxing, how are you?
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, plenty to talk about.
Are you? Listen, I know you've probably been more skeptical than I am about this fight actually happening, but
I've been won over.
We have
less than 24 hours, or just no, it'll probably happen now. Yeah.
Oh man, do you know what? Right, I'm glad we did this for 8:30 because since the weigh-in, my phone has been just non-stop. People texting me, what do you think? What do you think? It's like, lads, I'm buzzing alone, much like everyone else is as well. I can't believe it. Yeah. I can't believe 230. I can't. And obviously, judging by the reaction, I mean, we're live less than 2 minutes and there's 150 people in the building. You guys in the chat are struggling to believe it as well. What do you make of it? Were you like me going to this weigh-in, a slightly lighter Fury, and probably the same as always Usyk, or what were you thinking?
Right, I don't believe he's 233. That's the first thing. I think if you look at what he was wearing, he had this enormous crucifix around his neck, which I don't know what it was made of. Could be lead for all I know. That's probably 4 or 5 pounds. I think I was talking to Lee from Inside the Distance Boxing.
Just in the chat as well.
Is he? Oh, hello,
yeah.
Lee.
Shout out, Lee.
He mentioned that he had jeans on, so there could have been something in his pockets. I think Usyk is probably 226, 227, and that is probably what I thought he would be. I thought Fury would be maybe 265. He's a little bit lighter than I thought. But for a man that size, it doesn't make a lot of difference. But I don't think Usyk's 233, not in the real world. He's a bit heavier than normal, but not much.
He looks a little bit heavier than we're used to seeing him. But I guess when I heard Michael Buffer say 233, I was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He did have the jeans on. It's like, do you remember when Wilder fought Fury? I think it was the first fight, and he was barely 210 pounds. I think he was only about like 211, but he wore like a suit, like a big mask and everything to it. And you're thinking, Jesus, what does he actually weigh without that? I think that this is one of those where he, as you say, he had the crucifix on. God knows what was in his pockets. David Haye used to put weights in his pockets back in the day. Could that be all part of Usyk's mind games? Because everyone is talking about Fury's mind games, this, that, and the other. Is that Usyk's one to make Fury think, oh, I was ready for a guy 220 and now I've got a guy a stone heavier? And shout out to Richard for the super chat, by the way. We always read them out. Usyk at 233 is a mistake, honestly. He sacrificed speed and power and durability. But is he really 233?
I personally don't think so. I'd say, like I say, 227, maybe 228 at a push. But look, he had a metal buckle on his jeans, on his belt. Yeah, you add it all up, it comes to about 6 pounds. I'd say 227, something like that.
No, if he was 220, let's just kind of round it off and say, like, let's say he was 225 thereabouts, right? Then I wouldn't really worry too much about it because I'd be thinking, like 3-4 pounds is not going to make a drastic bit of difference. He is 37 years old. He is getting a bit up there. So, you are going to, it's going to come with age. That's inevitable. Had it been just that, I probably wouldn't have been like, oh, what the hell? Here in 233, though, I mean, you see the reaction it got. Even if it's legit, then questions. But if it's not, it's got people talking. If people weren't interested, now they're like, whoa, hang on a minute, 233. And I'm sure it's got Team Fury talking like, oh, we weren't ready for that.
See, I think all this mind game stuff is, for the most part, a load of rubbish. I just don't. It's like when people talk about, the excellent mind games that Fury plays. I mean, who could not wind up someone like Deontay Wilder? It's so easy. Massively egotistical. And even Klitschko, he liked to try and play so-called mind games, but he was very predictable. It's all a little playground to me. Now with Usyk, you can't mess with him. I don't think you can get under his skin. It's possible he's just thrown a little sort of almost half jovial sort of bone at Fury and say, hey, look at me, am I overweight? Am I going to be carrying too much weight like Wilder was? Because Wilder definitely was carrying too much weight. It was all upper body and
he looked ridiculous.
Yeah, he looked like there's an old comedian that is before your time called Max Wall, which older people will know. Very thin legs and a very big upper body, and had a sort of bald with hair at the side. You'd have to Google him. I'm showing my age, but he looked kind of as ridiculous as Max Wall, who was kind of like a caricature of a certain type of comedian, old style comedian, because he was all upper body. And after 2 or 3 rounds, Wilder was knackered. Well, I don't think that'll be the case at all with Usyk. I think he's been a heavyweight now for what
5 years. 5 years.
Yeah. And he's fought top men, and I just don't think it's a factor at all, to be honest.
It's got people talking, though. It definitely has.
Yeah.
A few people I've seen online, and I've got a few messages as well, and shout out again to Richard. Usyk looks thicker. If it's in, he does. But he does definitely look thicker. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
What I will say is a few people have said that they reckon that Usyk is coming in a little bit heavier because, listen, Usyk can say what he wants and say, I've gone to fight Joshua in his backyard twice and I've come out with a decision. Hatman said it and I agree. The boxing establishment want Fury Joshua. They want that. Is Usyk maybe thinking for the first time, I need to really be strong and go for a knockout in this fight? Because even though I am the superior boxer, I can't leave it in judges' hands. And I need to be as strong, as thick, everything. I need to be just firing on all cylinders, heavier, hitting harder, everything, to impose myself and put a dent in Tyson Fury, which I think he can do. I think he could have done that at 220, to be honest with you. And again, shout out to Adam. I don't know why it's not letting me bring that super chat up on screen, but he says, I agree with you, G. Thick jeans, necklace, possibly something in his pocket. He was probably playing mind games. Usyk looks locked in. I think he absolutely does. It's been interesting looking at Fury this week, but I think Usyk's locked in. But you think that Usyk is doing that? Is he thinking to himself, look, I need to make sure that I actually win this fight by any means, whether it's knockout or points? Because normally he's not really seemed indifferent, but it's going to be right up against him. I think it will be.
If you feel that that the judges are going to be against you and so on, and the promoters are against you, I think it's a mistake to change your tactics. But what you've got to do is you've got to make sure that you really impose your game plan on the opponent. I mean, really impose it. So you're not going to rest for a single second. So in other words, you're training for the full 36 minutes, no taking your foot off the pedal. If he does that, I think he wins. If he changes his game plan because he fears the judges are going to rob him, and it's feasible they could rob him, then
100%.
I think if he changes his game plan, that's a mistake, and he really has fallen into a trap. But I don't think Usyk would do that. I think he's too intelligent. I think his team are too good. But I do worry about the judges. I do, because for the reasons that we've said, the establishment, the promoters, the broadcasters, they all want Fury to win so that they can pay off Usyk and to go straight into a Joshua versus Fury Wembley Stadium fight. Colossal, gigantic, enormous fight. But, I worry about it.
The money, big up from America. Is that not a fake weigh-in? Well, I think the fighters who weighed on the undercard weighed in earlier because they had to make weight. And it would be very late in the day. It wouldn't be probably healthy for them to weigh in at that time because they wouldn't be able to rehydrate as quickly. Listen, with regards to the judging, I'm not going to lie, it's something I'm worried about too. Because if you think about it like this, right, this fight is making, people are talking about, there's 400 people in the building. If you haven't already, smash the like button. People are talking about it. Well, there you go. People are talking, people are interested in it, right? Imagine, this is intrigue for Usyk Fury. Imagine Joshua Fury, the intrigue. It's going to be, there'd be 800 people in the building. There literally would. The money that all the promoters, Queensbury, the Saudis, Eddie Hearn, everyone would get is astronomical. And they're probably, they know themselves, if Usyk wins and he wins it, you know, an all right fight. You know, a fight that we're hyper focusing about, but an all right fight in the end. And you know, he comes through and he's undisputed. There's no real intrigue in seeing Joshua Usyk 3. I'm not as up for that as I would be really any other fight. Fury with controversy as well, especially like say it's a controversial decision. You know, Joshua's going to step up to the plate to right the wrong for Oleksandr Usyk. You know, there's so many ways they could sell. It sells in of itself, but if the judges are not wise and they do something, I mean, it makes the Joshua fight even bigger because Fury would be going in as the proper villain, the undisputed champion who really stole those titles. There's so many ways. There's so many ways that they could sell that, and I'm worried that they're going to try one of those ways tomorrow night.
I would hate that.
Look.
I don't particularly like Fury as a person.
As a person, no.
I don't imagine that we get along, and I don't think.
Nor I.
The guy, Usyk seems like a more of an amiable sort of chap. But what I want tomorrow is for the right man to win, and if that's Fury, that's absolutely fine. If he deserves to win, give him the cards. You know, yeah, that's great. And if Usyk wins, that's fine too. I ain't got a problem. But what I don't want of controversy, any kind.
Any kind. And what I saw, your point there is right. If Usyk wins this fight and it's controversial, let's say we watch it and we see, no, Tyson Fury's won this fight and Usyk gets it, I will be the first person, because you know I get my post fights out saying, BS, Tyson Fury won that fight. I don't want that either way. This is such a big fight. I don't want, and big fights like this, they don't come, like really massive fights, they don't come around too often, right? Canelo versus Golovkin won. That was a really, really, really big fight at the time. What happened? It got controversy. And it had people saying, oh, is this what boxing's about? This is even bigger, I believe. We don't need that. We need people to look at this fight and say it was brilliant and the right guy won.
You see, the first Canelo-Golovkin fight, I'm probably in the minority that I think it was a very close fight. You know,
it was competitive.
It was a robbery. I think you can certainly make the case for Golovkin winning, but I don't think it was the great, you know, like a 9-3 fight or some 10-2 fight. But so if it's that type of fight tomorrow, and Fury or Usyk gets the decision, that sets the table for the rematch, and the rematch becomes, you know, valid. Whereas if one guy is clearly superior and the other guy gets it, that to me is real controversy, and that's something I would hate, because we've come all this way. You know, this is the fight we've all wanted. Undisputed heavyweight champion, first one this century. You know, the first lineage this century, because Fury has never been the lineal champion ever.
Nope.
And that's another piece of his bullshit. But I do think that if we get real controversy, it's a very bad look for the game, very bad look for boxing, and it would piss me off something chronic, because we don't need it.
Well, history in heavyweight undisputed fights, I mean, we only have to go Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, which was the last one. We got controversy in that fight. Now, I want to ask you, actually, I'm glad I have you on, because I want to ask you about that, right? When they first had their fight, I was about 5 years old. I wasn't watching boxing, right? Lewis Holyfield, obviously. You were. What was the feeling around Lewis Holyfield going into that fight for yourself? Is it the same as, is it similar to what you're feeling now for this fight, or does this just eclipse that?
Well, I was living in America at the time, so I was the lone Brit. Against all the American guys who like boxing. So I couldn't really gauge what it was like over here. Obviously I kept in touch, and this was slightly before the internet, or before I got into the internet. So I would, you know, exchange phone calls and letters with people, old style handwritten letters. And you know, we talk about boxing a lot of the time. I used to get my boxing news sent over as well. So I couldn't really gauge what it was like in the UK, other than looking through the window as an outsider. In America, most of the Americans thought that Lewis had won it. I know there was an outrage over the decision with, I think it was Max Kellerman, Brian Kenny. I remember watching. This was the immediate aftermath. Mm-hmm. Another couple of people, Atlas may have been one of them, and they were all saying that Lewis clearly won this fight. Now, I'm going to really say something here that not a lot of people are going to like. I thought that fight was a lot closer than people make out.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I watched it. I think I watched it in a bar. Was it the first one or the second one I watched in the bar? I can't remember. But I remember thinking, I think Lewis has got this, but I'm not sure. And in fact, the judge that went for Lewis in that fight, I don't think he had him so, like a massive amount ahead. I mean, there was obviously a 115, 113 for Holyfield.
There was wider scorecards in the second fight than there was in the first, which was a closer fight. Which
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But I don't think the first fight was, the great outrage. And I remember reading Boxing Monthly when it was going, with the editor whose name escapes me. He's a very good journalist. I can't remember his name. And he had in the editorial, he said, outrage. It wasn't an outrage. It was a reasonably close fight that perhaps should have gone to Lewis. But, what's all the fuss about? And I kind of agreed with that.
Really? Now, I'd watch it, obviously, years later, and you hear robbery, and you kind of watch it with that view of, robbery. So I always felt Lewis won that fight.
But G-Man, listen, there was a very famous fight before my time. My granddad used to talk about it. Joe Bugner and Henry Cooper. And everyone said, that was a terrible robbery, and clearly Bugner got a gift, and Cooper never spoke to Harry Gibbs, the ref, again, and blah, blah. Because it was the referee was the sole arbiter in those days. And I watched that fight, and then I watched it again. I watched it a third time, and I thought it was a close fight. And that was an old 15-rounder. And it wasn't a particularly exciting fight. But a lot of people talk about robbery. They throw this word of robbery around. And it's almost like I know perhaps we disagree on this one, but Maxie Hughes Loma. Maxie Hughes Cambosis. I mean, I thought Maxie Hughes won that fight, but I think I had him 2 points ahead. Well, that's not what you'd call a robbery. A robbery is something like Campbell Hatton against that young Spanish kid, that Sonny Martinez.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Or Catterall Taylor was a flat out disgrace. But it's all subjective, I suppose.
Well, I'll always say that I felt Hughes won that fight fairly clearly, and I'll stand by that. I'm one of the few people who actually thought Andre Ward legit beat Sergei Kovalev.
Another close, that's another example. Kovalev clearly won that fight. Well, did he? I mean, I think I might have had him a point or two ahead, but it's not a robbery. These are not robberies. You do get swing rounds in most fights that could go either way, and it depends.
That fight itself was a swing round. There was loads of them in that fight.
Yeah.
I want to read this super chat really, really quickly. I'd be willing to bet 10 quid, so thank you, mate. $10, $10 US dollars. Nice one. I'd be willing to bet Usyk has been at 233 for 6 months, so he's completely acclimatized to it. Fury coming in to jab and move, and Usyk coming to destroy. I can see shades of Usyk Bellew. We haven't spoken about that, right? And again, I've had a few friends text me about this. We're talking about Usyk. Tyson Fury, 262 pounds. Yes, he's significantly lighter than he was last time. But look, I don't have a go at me for saying this, right? I know muscles don't win fights. It's not a beauty contest. But there's no real like at times in his career, he has never been body beautiful, but there's been definition there. There's really not any. For me, I'm genuinely saying this, right? As objective as I can, he looked weak. Not like weak, weight drained, but he doesn't look strong. Even at that body at 262, which is lighter, he does not look strong. At 264 against Dylan White, you could see even the way, and I was looking back at some of the old weights, and it's like, yeah, he looks strong. He does not look strong. Or for me anyway, he didn't look strong.
The bulk has gone. I mean, he looks like a guy who's not been on a crash diet.
Exactly.
But you see, I made a video and I got a lot of verbal custard pies thrown at me for saying that, has he made that weight legitimately, or has he used, should we say, other means? And looking at him on the scales today, I was thinking, it looks like he's just lost a ton of weight quickly. I don't know.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is his tactic? To try and move against Usyk? To try and box? To use his legs? Nah. You see, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think Fury was trying to sort of age out Usyk, but he actually ended up aging himself out.
That's exactly what I was saying as well. That it's kind of maybe the best time to do it was 2 years ago when you had the chance, or maybe 2 year 2022, because Usyk still has, he's older, but he's looked after himself. Whereas Fury, that will catch up with you, and maybe now he's like, crap, it's caught up with me, because you could see in 2022 towards the back end of that year against Chisora, you were like, oh, hey, you're winning, but there's a few kind of signs there. Get a move on with this Usyk fight, and now it's a case if the damage has been done, you can't undo it. And thank
Yeah.
you again for the £3.50 bet on a draw. The draw was tempting, but it's kind of
I've got a 500.
it was 20-1 at one point, and I don't think it is now. So I've kind of the draw has been and gone for me.
I've got a fiver on at 12-1. I was a bit disappointed with those odds. I thought it'd be 20.
Yeah, it was 20-1 at one point, and that would have been nice. I should have really made hay while the sun was shining. You might be good with that.
Well, you never know, do you? I mean, another controversial draw. Definitely shades of Lewis and Holyfield, but I do.
It's going to repeat itself. No, hopefully not.
1999, wasn't it, the first Lewis?
March 99 and then November 99, the rematch.
Well, it's like Halley's Comet, isn't it? It comes along once every however many years. But so it was a quarter of a century ago. That's how long we've waited. And as you were saying, you were just a baby or a little toddler when the last undisputed champ was around. I can understand why this is such a massive deal to younger boxing fans. It is a massive
for me,
deal.
it's massive. I can't believe it. I've been following the sport religiously now for over a decade, and the heavyweight division was what got me really, I've always been a fan of boxing, but never an avid watcher prior to when I was about 17, 18. And it was looking at old heavyweights, the heavyweights at the time we had the Klitschko's and Stavern and David Hay, so we weren't exactly spoiled, but I was interested in all them. And that's what got me into really becoming a hardcore over a decade ago. Probably closer to 15 years ago now. It's crazy how quick time flies. And all I've wanted since then is undisputed heavyweight champion. And I'm 24 hours away from finally getting to see that, because I never had the chance. When again, I was only a little boy in the 90s. I was born in 93, so at the back end of 1993. So none of my family watched boxing, so it wasn't like I was even brought up in a boxing house to say, oh, as a toddler when Lewis beat Holyfield. It wasn't even that.
I was lucky because I had my grandfather who would, I guess he sort of educated me a little bit about the old timers, which is why I got into the history of it. But I always think, what would he think about the fighters today? Not just the heavyweights, but all of them, because he was a hard bloke to please. He loved Muhammad Ali and he liked Rocky Marciano, and he even remembered Joe Louis. You talk about Joe Louis, and it was fascinating listening to the stories and reading the old, newspaper cuttings and all that sort of stuff. It was fantastic. So I was very lucky in that sense. But I still carry that with me. I still think, okay, what would my granddad think about like Usyk, Holyfield, Usyk, Fury? Who would he be picking? It's still there. It's kind of like carrying him in the air.
What do you think? What do you think he would make of just today's heavyweights in the scene?
He would be amazed at the size of them. To be honest, I am as well. Because previously, when I was a kid, he used to talk about Primo Carnera, who was very, very big, but was not very good. He was a mob-controlled fighter who was a lumbering giant, not much technique. For someone of
fight.
Oh yeah. And now, of course, Fury, when he was in his heyday, would move like a middleweight, and my granddad, he died in '88, so he saw a bit of Mike Tyson, and he used to say to me, oh yeah, you see, he ain't that big, but look how he moves. Look at the center of gravity, and he'd go into all the technical stuff. Because Mike Tyson, in his heyday, 86 to 88, was an extremely skillful fighter. He was not a slugger. He was extremely skillful, very, very fast, very precise, beautiful combinations. It wasn't just about brute strength and power. And he would point that out to me. What he'd make of the big guys now, I mean, even the Klitschko's, they're giants, aren't they? Usyk is a small heavyweight, but he's 6'3" and he weighs 233. I mean, come on, man.
He'd probably look at Usyk and say, he's a very big man. If you showed your granddad just Usyk and said, this is the heavyweight champion, and you didn't show him all the other, he'd be like, a very big man and he moves very well, and you'd be like, here are some of his contemporaries. I'm sure you're just like,
Joshua, it is amazing. And this is why, when you talk about the old timers facing the modern ones, and I understand why people do that, because it's interesting to sort of say, how would I don't know, who should we go for? Jack Dempsey compare against Joshua. I mean, Dempsey was a great fighter. He was the best of his time. That's all you can judge anyone by. But he was tiny. He was
He was 185 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, if he was around today, someone would say, yeah, you could do super middleweight. He was 6 foot and he could do super middleweight today.
Yeah. But he was a destroyer, and again,
Yeah,
I mean, you saw what he did to Jess Willard, and who was very big for the time. But people have gotten big. People forget how long this sport's been going. In the gloved era alone, nearly 140 years roughly. Yeah. And people have just gotten to be giants. They're gigantic.
You look at the heavyweight division, right, and even go back to the 70s. They would have been, the cruiserweight division today is the heavyweights of the 80s and 70s, if you think about it. And even then, the cruiserweights are probably a lot bigger than a lot of those guys.
Yeah,
a lot bigger. It's absolute. Does that kind of make what Usyk has done, going from, because I was listening to Jamie last night, and he was talking about pound for pound, and I really don't like pound. I don't do it. It's not for me. But in his opinion, to go from cruiserweight to heavyweight, to win that title and to be in an undisputed fight and to potentially be undisputed is more impressive. And I agree with him, by the way. I'm not having a go. Is more impressive than, say, Canelo going from 154. I know he stopped off at middleweight in between, but going from 154 to 168 and being undisputed. Because at the end of the day, you are still limited by weight. Usyk is going from a weight where guys are cutting to 200, and now he's fighting guys 6'6", 250 pounds.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, pound for pound, it's, if I don't normally have a pound for pound favourite. I normally go say, well, my top three are. Well, in this case, it would be Inoue, not in any order, Inoue, Crawford, and
Usyk.
Mm-hmm. Those would be my top three. But you can put them in any order you like. Yeah, I think Jamie was right. I think getting into the land of the giants, and my God, they are giants, and dominating them, and even getting to the point where you're in an undisputed fight is pretty astonishing. Because I still think that Anthony Joshua is underrated, believe it or not. And I think 2 victories over Joshua, going 24 rounds with him, I think that's very, very impressive.
Imagine how well they'll age, and just bear in mind, yes. I can see a referee stoppage too. When the camera zoomed down on Fury's face, you can see the cut is definitely not healed. Do you know what? I want to point something out, right? And I have been one of those people who have said, I doubt the validity of the cut. When you zoom in, he's had work done. So I hold my hands up to that one. The boy who cried wolf. But when you zoom in on the eye, you can see it. Like and that's a worry because it doesn't look fully healed.
Well, he might. I don't know. Actually, I said this in one of my videos that cut. Looking at it when he released it back in February. It looked like a slice, and it looked like the type of thing. If it's deep, it's going to require not just stitches but plastic surgery. The problem is that there hasn't been enough time for the plastic surgery to heal properly. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it opened.
No, you see little close-up clips, and you can clearly see it's around there, and you're like, oh yeah, it's it's like a wound that you got a couple of months ago, which is basically what it is, and you're like, that's all right, it'll heal as long as you don't do anything with it. He's going to get punched with it, and because of that cut, you do kind of ask the question: how hard was sparring? I know you wear protective headgear. You're obviously going to wear it, but like, surely you would say to the sparring partner, look, just watch the eye. How hard could they really go at it?
Well, yeah. I mean, sparring is practice, isn't it? I get the feeling that Fury, well, I hope this is true, otherwise he's in for a long night, but I think he's probably concentrated more on technique, game plan, rather than, and sort of lost the weight almost as an aside. He may have lost it too quickly. I do think there's something to what you're saying about him looking a bit weak.
Yeah.
He's probably concentrated on how am I going to approach this, whereas he didn't have any kind of game plan when he fought. Probably not even Chisora, with Dillian White. He just think, I'll go in there and I'll riff it, and I'll jab and he's vulnerable to an uppercut, so I'll throw that. No, I think him and his team would have scientifically broken down Usyk and thought, we got to be on it.
I think so, but I looked up at the weigh-in and I'm thinking, did you leave it all in the gym? Have you focused too much? Because, when you're talking about fighters who make weight, it's rare you hear a fighter who made weight overtrained, because they're both having to train extremely hard to take loads of weight off. So they're probably overtrained, but you just don't notice it because they're both overtrained. But at heavyweight, you hear stories about it. You hear Isaac Chamberlain. I remember brilliantly once when his uncle was training him, said that he was doing the same training that welterweights were doing, and he just had no energy, losing weight, probably why he looked so slim. And now you're looking at Fury and you're thinking, have you just spent the whole time just like burning weight, gone, it's off, thinking, oh, I'm back to what I used to be. Even against Otto Wallin, he was 258, in around, he was in the 250s anyway, right? And John Fury was saying you came into like, you tried to get down to a weight that you couldn't do anymore. Well, he's not a million miles off 250 in the 250s now. And it's 5 years on. He's had some tough fights in those 5 years. I don't know.
And the lifestyle hasn't
yeah.
been all that putting on weight and.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, he's still done that. Like, it's not like, he came back after the ban and it was just a clean athlete the whole time. And what I mean by clean is clean living. He's still gone and fluctuated in between fights. It's not as bad as it once was, but it's still not great.
Well, he's beaten since the third Wilder fight, which was a car crash of a fight for both men. I mean, it's hellish for Wilder, but it was pretty bad for Fury as well. He's beaten Dillian Whyte, knocked him out, Dillian Whyte's punch resistance was gone. 2 fights previously been knocked out by Povetkin. He beat Eric Chisora, who is a mini metro with 350,000 miles on the clock, and he's beaten a debutante. So that's how many years ago? When was it? When was the last? Is it 4 years, 5 years? The third Wilder fight.
3 years this October.
Is it that close?
3 years. October the 9th, 2021. Remember the day very well.
Maybe I'm remembering this wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about the activity. I mean, but has he done the camps? Did he really do a camp for Ngannou?
He says he did, but it sure as hell didn't look it on fight night. I mean, that was, I don't know about you, but I've gone back and watched that Ngannou fight. My eye is so itchy. And I honestly, when you look at a fight, right, and you think, first time you're like, it was bad, but yeah, it was very bad, but you can get better. And you go back and watch it again, you're like, it's even worse watching it retrospectively. You're like, oh my God. Look, watching it live, you're in the moment and you're kind of like, yeah, it's bad, he won it. And, but then you watch back, it's just like, holy crap. You're so in the moment, you're like, oh wow, it was that bad.
Yeah.
What you say echoes Carl Froch's comment. He thought Fury's sparring looked very sloppy. I know. I wonder if does Carl Froch watch some of our videos and be like, what did G say? Because I've heard him name drop some channels in the past. It's a big up to Carl Froch. Big up to Fight Sport Talk. Usyk looks slimmer. Looks slimmer to the Joshua fight. He is 10 pounds heavy. Yeah, Fury was trying to be confident, but he looked scared, like he was at the press conference. Usyk looks like a silent assassin. That's something. Now, I want to ask you this because Tyson Fury does love the mind games. We both know that, right? Against Vladimir Klitschko, he was able to get in on Klitschko. And I always say, when he brought up that sauna, right, it told me 2 things, right? One, it's that Klitschko is a very petty man. Like, he would look at that and think, yeah, you beat me, and that would make him think. But Fury to go to that extreme, to go and stay in a sauna longer than someone like that, okay, he's done it. With Usyk, he's not faced off with him. And as soon as the weigh-in was done, he didn't want to do it. Well, it wasn't he didn't want to do a face-off. It was just like straight in with the head, boom. It's almost like he's looking at Usyk thinking, you've beaten Joshua at face-offs before. I've never come off second at a face-off. I don't want to. So we're not going to do a face-off at the press conference. We're not going to do a face-off at the weigh-in because I'm going to get in your... It's almost like it's like he knows Usyk has his number and just is telling himself, no, he's never going to beat me. So, because this is the guy who would sit in a sauna and steam room just to beat Klitschko, and he won't do the face-off with Usyk. I'm telling you now, there is something to take from that.
A big part of so-called mind games, I don't even like the phrase, but is that you deflate someone's ego. You find out what their little chink in their ego is, and you chop it up. Mm-hmm. And that was possible with Klitschko because he was almost pretentious, in the way he tried to project this image of being, a very sort of intellectual fighter, and and therefore, if you bring him down a peg or two, whether it's dressing up as Batman with Huey as Robin or the Joker or whatever it was, and then wrecking a press conference and throwing his belts everywhere, you get under someone's skin like that. you deflate their ego, you can have an effect on them. But with Usyk strikes me as someone who he can control his ego. You know, he's a very religious man. I mean, genuinely religious, so it would appear, and he defers to those teachings. You know, I don't know whether you're religious. I'm personally not, but that's his gig, and he follows it. He abides by it, and it controls his emotions. And in life, in boxing, certainly, you've got to control your emotions. Otherwise, you run the risk of coming a cropper. I don't think you can get inside Usyk's head. I just don't think it's possible.
And I think, was it you yourself who said that in any aspect of life, if you let the emotions get in and control you, you're done. Whether it's a job or whatever it is, you're done.
Yeah.
It's been I'm assuming you mean confirmed. Usyk isn't 233. He lied in the way in, put stuff in his jeans. It wouldn't shock me now, to be honest with you. It would not shock me after seeing it. Because when you look at it live, you're just like, oh, and then you're like, wait a minute, hang on, hold up. You're in that moment, you're just kind of like, oh, and then you're like, wait a minute. 770 in the building, by the way. I just thought I'd chuck that in there. Lads, if you haven't already, how many likes are we on? We've got over 700 in the building. How many likes are we on? Because I got to plug your channel while we're here, right?
Thank you.
157, right? Joe Stunner Boxing is pinned in the comments. Like, he's pinned in the chat, right? Surely out of the 700, I know you've got 3,800. Surely some of these aren't familiar with Joe Stunner Boxing. Go over and give him a subscribe. You're not far off 4K. You're not a million miles off 4,000.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Listen, I'm 30 subs off 18,200. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on my end as well. Your boy wants to hit 20K, the Adrian Broner special.
I think I'd get a nosebleed if I got 18,000. I've been up that high, but
Adrian Broner special at 20K, mate.
Yeah. When do you get one of those little placards they give you on YouTube? What would you have to get?
100,000.
Oh,
I know. You think they should give you something for 10K?
Yeah, they should.
10K is something. It might not be, even if it's only a little thing. It'd be like 10K is still 10K.
Yeah.
They should give you something for that.
What, a lot? It's just a little small, like a little.
Yeah, a little tiny, just to kind of say, job done, well done. Because some might not ever get to the 100K.
Yeah.
Fury was visibly blowing after his media workout. Now, what I will say about the media workout, Fury definitely did more than others. And have you seen the picture of Eddie Hearn where some of the dye was melting out?
I haven't seen it.
It literally looked like some of the dye in his hair was melting out. It was so hot.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, it is Riyadh, isn't it? But
yes, Gman, we see the work you're putting in and we're proud. Keep it up. Thank you, Craig, mate. I appreciate that for the £5, man. Me and you, we both work hard this week.
Yeah.
And God only knows. I'm hoping that we get a clear result tomorrow and we can do a post-fight review, a little aftermath vid, and then we can move on. I don't really want to be going on talking about this happened.
And please, no one fail a PED test, please.
Oh, good God, that'd be the next thing. Yeah. And we wouldn't know until long after the fight, maybe a week or so after the fight. I had a prophetic dream that Usyk wins by KO. The referee stopped the fight due to Tyson Fury's cut gashing all over the place. I bet what? Get up again. Literally. Ooh. 9K. Mate.
What, was that a dream? You didn't do that in real life, did you?
I was going to, did you do that in real life or did you? Funny thing, right? Whenever I've had a dream about a fighter winning the fight, they've always lost.
Oh.
Literally. Every time I've had a dream about a fighter winning the fight, I dreamt that Golovkin would beat Canelo. I dreamt Klitschko would beat Joshua. I think there was another one there as well. They've always lost.
Yeah.
So I haven't dreamt about this fight. I haven't dreamt about this fight yet. So we don't know yet.
But it will seem like a dream. When that opening bell goes and they walk towards each other, it will seem like a dream anyway.
Oh, man. This... Oh, I can't wait, man. It's going to be...
And to think that once upon a time, I thought David Price could beat Tyson Fury. About 12, 13 years ago.
Do you remember that, though? Like, if you had said... Could you imagine, right, going back... Let's just imagine going back 2012, right? And I'd love to go back to 2012 because I had great fun. I was 18 and I had great fun back then. But could you imagine going back to then, right? And saying to, like, the people who were backing David Price, because there was loads, you know, and saying Pricey would retire after 2019 with, I think, 7 losses, all by KO.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury in the year 2024 will be undefeated, going in there as a 2-time heavyweight champion, to fight in an undisputed fight against Oleksandr Usyk, who beat Anthony Joshua twice. Deontay Wilder lost, Fury beat Klitschko, Joshua beat Klitschko. You would literally be called mad. You'd be like, no, that's not going to happen. And it did. You know, it makes me kind of think, like, in the next 12, 13 years, where the hell is the heavyweight division going to be like then, with all these guys coming up?
You'll probably have Inoue taking on, I don't know, Boots Ennis at 154 or something crazy like that.
J.R. Pataya undisputed a heavyweight.
You never know, do you? But getting back to what we were saying, Pataya, when I watch him, I think that he has this type of style to be very successful in bygone eras, because he would be a heavyweight champion indefinitely in the old days.
Oh yeah.
Even though he's only a small cruiser, he's not particularly big, but he would be a clear-cut heavyweight going back, into previous eras. I think he's a fantastic fighter, J.R. Pataya.
That's a Joe Stunner question, though, for £5. Joe Stunner, sir. No one knows Price was KOing everyone, and he did. If you'd seen Fury back then and contrasted him to Price, you would say, by the eye test, you'd be like, Price easy. I was into boxing at the time, but I was never really kind of mad on David Price. I wasn't really mad on Tyson Fury either. Like, I was David Haye team all the way. Yeah. I knew he was full of something, but I was always team Haye back then. And I would have said David Haye beats both. If you'd asked me, 18-year-old me, I would have said David Haye beats both, no problem.
Yeah, but have you noticed that the criticisms certainly the criticisms I made of Fury 13 years ago, whenever, are the same ones that people are making now?
I mean, of David Haye, the criticism.
No, the criticisms of Fury, sorry, are the same then as they are now. Doesn't live the life, gets out of shape. But, he's sort of not deviated from his early career in that sense. Almost losing to McDermott, or a lot of people think McDermott beat him the first time. Fair enough, but he hasn't. I think Fury is the type of guy, he needs a challenge like the one he's got on tomorrow to actually focus and get his head together and get himself into fighting fit shape, which is different to being in gym shape.
See, you say he needs a challenge. The most consistent we've ever seen Tyson has been when he's with Peter.
Yeah.
Like, he was consistent back then.
Yeah, Peter Fury's everything John Fury isn't.
No, I have a lot of respect for Peter Fury. John Fury, not so much.
You've rarely seen two siblings that are so
they are. Like, the difference between John and Peter. Peter, I would gladly go and buy him a drink.
Yeah.
If he came in, I'd be if he even wanted to chat boxing, I'd be even happier, because I would happily go and buy him a drink, and even if I got 5 minutes to talk with him, I'd be delighted. John Fury, I'd just be like, go away.
Well, if you're talking to Peter and you're giving a view, so long as I imagine, as with most people, if you're respectful, you might disagree with them, and Peter would sort of say, "Well, I don't agree with you, but that's no problem. I see where you're coming from." John would take offence.
Oh yeah,
sort of put a nut on you. I mean, come on, it's just
a fighting man, but he's got he's not got much of a thick skin.
Do you know, John Fury is older than I am, and I cringe for the people who are in my age group looking at him. He's like a bloody 11-year-old. It's embarrassing to watch.
Oh man, it like, at one point I would have said it's funny, and I did think it was kind of funny, but now it's, as you say, you're just like, what the hell? Shut up, please.
How does Paris Fury put up with all that lot? With her husband, with John, with that poor woman.
She got the patience of a saint. She
must have, yeah.
What if Peter was in Team Fury for this fight? What would you think? Would you think we'd get a would Fury be more consistent with the weight? Would he be heavy? Would he be light? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think I know that there were other reasons why they separated, but Peter don't strike me as someone who's going to tolerate anyone deviating from his ideas. He may sort of taper them to suit the individual, but if Tyson's sitting on the sofa eating Häagen-Dazs and watching Netflix, Peter ain't going to be happy. He's going to want him to live the life. And I definitely think he wouldn't have come in the shape he's in today. He wouldn't be quite as light, probably be about 270 maybe. But I mean, all this is just conjecture, isn't it?
Gee, what's your prediction? Joe Stunner plus Johnny Rotten currently on tour versus John Fury.
Well, John Lydon probably weighs more. Johnny Rotten, as he's otherwise known, he probably weighs more than Fury and Usyk put together these days. So. Last time I saw John, he was. I think actually, I'm not making fun because I think he had a thyroid. He did have a thyroid problem, and John's his missus died not so long ago. So yeah.
True. Another question: do you think, and thank you, Stuart, for the £10? God Almighty! I mean, we've had loads in tonight. I feel bad taking all the super chats, to be honest with you.
I'll have some of it.
Yeah, we should. I feel bad. Like they're all coming in. I'm just like I was expecting maybe 2 or 3, but not like there's 21.
Wait,
there's 21.
Well, you've got your
super
big
chats.
move ahead, haven't you? So you need all the money.
Every little bit helps, lads. Time is money, mate. Time is money, Joe. Time is money. I remember telling that to Rob Tebbert once. We were chatting about sponsorships, and I was like, time is money, Rob. Time is money. Snooze, you lose. Do you think Spinks versus Holmes 1 could be the blueprint for this fight? That was a good fight, by the way. If you've never seen it, I know you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
That was the second fight. The second fight was closer between the two. It was definitely closer, but it was a very good fight both times.
Yeah, and Spinks really had the as he puts it, the blueprint. It was
did.
Very intelligent fighter, Spinks.
Spinks was a lot lighter than Usyk. He came from light heavy. Cruiserweight was at its infancy then. It was there, but it wasn't. Yeah. It was just kind of avoided. You know, there's nothing there. Yeah,
it was settling in.
That was over the 15. It was one of the last kind of major 15 rounders. Yeah, 15 round, 2 15 rounders. They went 30 rounds. No, but yeah, 30 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, the second one, a lot of people thought Holmes won it. I can see why.
A lot of people felt as though Holmes won the first fight, but he was on course to equal Rocky Marciano's record. And a lot of people, because he was disrespectful to Marciano, saying he couldn't carry his jockstrap, people feel as though boxing kind of said, "Who the hell are you to say that?" The establishment, boxing.
He made that comment after the first fight, the jockstrap comment, but he'd always kind of dismissed a lot of the previous champions. He wasn't very popular.
No, you see him now and people speak highly of him, but you get the impression that he wasn't probably liked. He was a bit disrespectful. He was like a less charismatic Ali.
Well, he followed Ali as well, which was to his detriment. But he was. People respected him. I remember him fighting. He was respected. Oh, he's very, very good, but he's not the sort of bloke you'd want to hang with, because again, it's an ego thing, I think.
It's before I read that super chat, I will say one of the most incredible things I've ever seen and I still watch it now with just my jaw on the floor, is Ernie Shaver's right hand in round 7 of their second fight. If you've ever seen a fighter just hit the deck and get back up, like, people, you want to talk about fury against Wilder, mate. Yeah. That right hand Shavers hit Holmes would have absolutely knocked the brick wall down. I'll never, to this day, and I've watched it. I sometimes go back and watch it, and I'm like, again, how did he do that? How did he get up from that right hand?
Because he was sort of slapped down, wasn't he? It wasn't like he just sort of crumpled. He was almost.
No, he went just
of the canvas. Yeah.
I love the way. If you ever watch it as well, it's got Costello. No, not Costello. It's got Cosell, and he's like, Holmes is now coming to himself. Boom. He's like, Holmes seems to be coming to himself. Boom.
Yeah, that wasn't the only time he got things a little bit. Old Howard
Commentators curse.
Yeah, him and Ali had a good little rapport going on.
They definitely did.
He said to Ali, "You seem very truculent," and Ali said, "Well, I don't know what that is, but if it's good, I'm it."
We don't get banter like this nowadays. No. You just, that's just, you can't write that kind of stuff. That's just perfect. Feels like Fury is trying to turn the clock back that only goes forward with the weight, but feel like Usyk may have given him a better chance.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah, what was I at when I was at my best? I was 255 pounds. Let's get back to that now.
I think you did. Didn't you do a video about David Hayes saying that when he was trying to make his comeback and he fought Bellew, he wore the same shorts and everything, and he tried to regain his
Bellew, when he made his comeback originally, he was coming in heavier and he was wearing, I think it was black and orange shorts, which he never really wore before. He lost to Bellew, came back, and he had the full blood, the old David Hay, the Union Jacks, everything. And I was like, that's him trying to recapture that old form. And he was even worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see fighters, and listen, I'm not gonna lie, right? Me and my friend, we've done that. Like in the past, when we were kind of in our mid-20s, we'd be like, "Do you remember the music we used to listen to back in the day?" And you listen to it at 25, and you're like, "Yeah, what the hell? We were 18 back then, and it shows." You're never gonna get back to that. You try and go back to what you were doing back then, you're like, "We ain't doing this now. We're too old." And that was 5 years ago.
As an aging punk, I dispute that. I still listen to the same music I did 50 years ago. So
that music is better than what we used to listen to. That music is better than some of the stuff we used to listen to. I remember even me and him talking about it there a few months ago. And we were like, "Oh God, we actually listen to that crap." We're like, "No, not today, not today."
Well, we all have to sow our wild oats in some form or other.
Oh, we all had good fun back then, though. That was the one thing.
Amazing.
Mate, we've gone just over 50 minutes. I'm gonna leave it here because I don't want to go to sleep. Well, I want to be able to sleep tonight, and I'm still buzzing from that weigh-in, and I don't know what I'm going to be like tomorrow night. I'm going to be an absolute, like I said to you before we went live, I'm not going to say that on YouTube, but I'm going to call it here. Before we do, we still have over 660 people in the building.
Wow.
If you haven't already, smash the like button.
Wow.
Joe Stunner Boxing. Link to his channel is there. Mate, before we finish, right, 2 questions. One, has the prediction changed?
No, Usyk on points.
Usyk on points.
I think one of the judges might go for a draw. Be a majority or a split.
Majority or a split. It's not really a question, but the last one is the 660 in the building. Where do we find you?
Oh, just Joe Stunner Boxing on YouTube. I did start a Twitter channel or X or whatever because they kicked me off years ago for something I said, and I sort of kind of came back on surreptitiously as Joe Stunner Boxing. But I never post anything on it because I think Twitter's a load of bollocks. But I don't really have anything other than the channel. I thought it was a Facebook page, Joe Stunner Facebook page. But yeah, come and say hello. You know, come and listen to the videos. I like reading your comments, and I appreciate your time. So if you can
it gets harder and harder to read comments when the bigger your channel goes.
I read them, but I used to reply to everyone. When I used to get 30 views, I could reply to everyone. Now I'm just I have to just read them and. You know,
listen,
I do appreciate it.
When I check my analytics, it's like 300 comments. Yeah. I ain't gonna read them. No way. 300. I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
So if I don't reply, it's not because I don't like you. It's there's hundreds upon hundreds, and you will. It gets hard.
I normally read them at work. You know, when I'm supposed to be working.
Ain't no one at work is gonna be listening. Don't worry.
Get paid for it. I'm just kidding.
But lads, we will be chatting to you. I'm sure we'll talk again after this fight. By this time tomorrow, no, actually, we won't be by this time tomorrow, but by this time Sunday, we'll have hopefully an undisputed champion, and we will be no doubt talking about it. Let's hope the wise men are wise. With 3 wise men, let's hope they're wise.
We hope so. Otherwise, they're not so wise.
No, they aren't. So
we'll deal with it.
I'm sure they won't ever show their face again if they're not wise. But people, I enjoyed this, man.
Thank you.
3 minutes in. We'll chat a little bit backstage, but lads, I'm going to call it there. Peace.